Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomcat Zone. It's been a while. I'd like to apologize for the delays in these videos. I've only produced, for this particular battle that we started, I want to say 6 months ago, I've only produced one video so far, two really if you count the tutorial for my new version of my module here. But anyway, I'm not, kind of being a little naive to think that there's a bunch of people waiting out there to see these things. I think this is more for my enjoyment and posterity's sake of these battles than anything else. But I do know some people watch them, or at least give them a cursory watch at least. So anyway, sorry if you've been waiting on the next installment. Here it is, and I apologize for the delay. We are in the midst of our 7th Fleet, Victory Games 7th Fleet, World War II. Game here. Let me do this because that's kind of loud. Scenario 13, World War III in the Pacific. Allied forces being the Chinese and the United States, as well as all the other allied countries with those, with the U.S., Japan, of course, against the Soviets, the North Koreans, and the Vietnamese. The first video that I just put out for game turns 1 and 2. Sorry to say, but it was dreadfully boring. We have started playing this game face to face. I'm still creating log files so that I can keep an eye on what's the moving action, but because we don't do log files and send them to each other and play by essentially email right now, there's none of the text that we've been doing in the previous battle with the 5th Fleet. So it's been hard to put together these actions and what was going on. So anyway, we are commencing game turn 3 here, and we'll go through all 6 action segments of game turn 3, and we'll see where the battle takes us to by the end of the first game day here. As game turn 3 is our night turn for game day 1. All right, so let's get to it. All right, here we go. As you can see, we are in game turn 3. This starts our night turn here, and before we ended game turn 2, excuse my chair, I had gotten initiative. So what we're going to see here, and this is a log file that I had. This log file is one that I did send to Scott prior to us meeting again face to face. But so this one will have a series of texts in the message bar that will highlight what the actions were that I took. So these makes it kind of easy to redirect what happens here. Anyway, I want to do this first. Let's switch this to solitaire. That opens up all of the bars in case we need to see strategic error or anything like that on either side. So let's continue here. As you can see, not much activity in the way of kills thus far. Soviets have found and pinned down one of Scott's task forces, a key task force, with especially for my objectives. And I've killed 2 of his frigates there, as well as I was able to sink the puffer. He snuck a nuclear sub against one of my task forces and took a shot at it, but the dominant ASW of the combined ships there gave me the opportunity to kill his nuke boat. Anyway, you also see that he has destroyed 3 of my destroyers. These are destroyers down off of Vietnam. They are far, far away, very isolated from any support, and I've lost 3 of those so far, as well as some North Korean MiG-23s, combat air patrols. You're also going to see on the map here there's a bunch of aircraft that have been restationed to new air bases. We'll see where those go here as this turn progresses. Actually, into game turn 4. So let's continue here. As you see, Soviets got the initiative, and I start with air. So, all right, Scott, we'll start with air, and we see that as my Tupolev 16 E's and G's launch Badger bombers and some electronic warfare aircraft take off from this base here called Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk, if that's the correct pronunciation. Otherwise, I butcher it as usual. Anyway, my Badgers launch and fly east to the Northwest Pacific Zone here. As I said earlier, we got satellite picked on the onset of the game, and I pegged Task Force 1 here, which is a key task force for me. It's in a squall zone, which doesn't affect aircraft's attacking, or truly the only thing squalls do is it slows ships down, which is beneficial to me too. Excuse me. Anyway, Task Force 1 is made up, it was made up of much more ships, because the previous game turns, as I said, I sunk a number of his frigates already. So, let me bring this up here and slide the bar over so we can see. Task Force 1 is the Schofield, the Halliburton, and the Taylor. I've hit 2 of his frigates. 3 of them are sunk. But the key ships in this group are these slow convoys. Each of these ships are worth 10 points to him. That's 30 points. And if he can get these slow convoy vessels to Hokkaido, to Japan, or to North Korea, it gives him those 30 points. And so, just kind of, as you watch these series of turns here, I'm going to give you my perspective from the Soviet side, as they are the ones I'm controlling in this battle. Don't have a lot of strength. As much as the European front was tanks and planes and people and infantry and all that kind of stuff, although there's a presence in the Pacific, at least with this setup, doesn't seem to be a lot of Soviet strength out here. I got very minimal aircraft. I've got very minimal. Well, even my subs are stronger subs. I'm assuming they put in the Pacific or in the Atlantic. And my allies over here, not much to speak of. The North Koreans have some MiG-23s, of course, we gave them, and MiG-21s, MiG-19s. The Vietnamese have MiG-21s, I think 2 squadrons total. So there's not a lot of support from the allies of the Soviets over here. Not when you're looking at the allied U.S. and their allies and the number of Japanese and U.S. F-15 squadrons, F-16 squadrons, the South Korean F-15 and F-16 squadrons. It is a wall of combat aircraft that it's impenetrable by the Soviet forces here. So anyway, when you see me fly, you're going to see me flying around these cap zones and stuff like that, because I can't fly through them. They'd sweep my aircraft out of the sky before I could do anything, and it's not worth the losses because I don't get the replacements. Anyway, Badger bombers fly, and the goal here, my objectives, of course, are to kill all of the soft, or the high-value targets, I guess I would call them, soft targets, slow convoys, fast convoys, tankers, amphibious assault ships. A lot of them don't give me benefit of victory points, but they deny him victory points. And so that's what you'll see me gear my strategy to, and in my projecting of power with my ships and my aircraft here. So anyway, the Badgers come to strike this task force. We continue. Group flies 22 hexes to attack Task Force 1. I roll for location. I roll a 7, and that is the bottom half of the stack. So when we look at the bottom half of the stack, we see Convoy 2, the Taylor, and the Convoy 3 group here. So before I do anything, I want to correct the marker. You have a task group now, not a task force. There's only 3 ships, so we had to make sure that the task group side was up. And what that does it eliminates that +2 bonus that he would get on his die roll as a task force. Doesn't have a task force. He's only got 3 ships, which constitute a task group. So we click again, and you're going to see that the task force becomes a task group. All right. Continuing on. Okay, I have 60 strength. I'm going to put 32 into the Tailor. That leaves 28, so I'll put 14 in both Con 2 and Con 3. You have an area error of 6, so the defense columns work out to be Con 2 on the 6, Tailor on the 9, Con 3 on the 8. So let's look at his ships again and see why that is. So the area error is the big numbers here on the bottom right? And all the fleet adds up to 6 points, 2, 4, 6. The three frigates have a combined error, and so 6 points of defense there. But then close air modifiers are applied for those ships that have them that either are underneath a target or are a target. So when we look at Convoy 2, as I said here, Convoy 2 is on the 6th column because they got a total of 6. Convoy, or the Tailor's on 9 because he's got this 3 close air defense. And the Convoy 3 has a 8 because essentially it loops around and he's underneath, or the Schofield is underneath him. So that gives the 6 plus 2 for the Schofield, or the Schofield's close air defense there. So that convoy ship has an 8. So 6, 9, and 8 are my columns that we'll need to look at on the CRT. So 6, 9, and 8. 9 and 8 are essentially the same column, but the one ship, the one convoy is on column 6 here. So might as well just keep this right here. Boom. All right, so his role for defense, okay, you have an area, okay, so I say here, you have a -2 modifier in your dice roll because of my electronic warfare aircraft that it imposes. So he rolls a 2. A 2 minus 2 is a 0 on each of those columns of 6 and 8, and it's a 0 and a 1 respectively. That's a 0 for Con 2 and a -1 for Tailor and Con 3. I will roll Tailor first. I always roll the big attack first, and then Con 3, Con 2. So here we go. So the Tailor has 32 SSM, or air-to-surface missile value applied to it. So with a 32 ASM or SSM against the Tailor, I roll a 6. A 6 on that attack, and the Tailor has a -1. That's a 5. Going over to the 32 column, you guys will see here that it's a 5. Essentially, the Tailor with a defense of 3 is obliterated. Even if it hadn't been damaged already, it would have been blown out of the water. It disappears in the night. That is a 5, and the Tailor is a bright explosion in the night sky. So there's that descriptor. So it's pulled from that list. Okay, with 14 SSM on Con 2 and Con 3, Con 3 rolled first. I rolled a 7. 7 minus 1 is a 6. And a 9 for Con 2. Roll Con 3 first. Con 2 has a 9 minus 0. Both of those, so if you go over here to the 9 column, or the 9 at 0 on 14, that's a 6. And then you go to the 7 minus 1 is a 6 on 14. And that is a 4. 4 and 6, both of those slow convoys are hit and sunk. So that was a fantastic attack by my Badgers there. Pretty much decimated his ships there. So they disappear off his task force display, and they've gone, of course, onto the death here. See the slow convoys, and then, of course, the Tailor's now on the fast frigate kill pile. All right. Then we see as my Badgers here return to base. All right, a new flight takes off from Vladimir, it looks like. Launches. Again, you're going to see me fly around his combat zones or combat patrols because we can't go through them. And this group of aircraft can only fly 30 hexes, right? So that's as far as I can get there. Fortunately, I need to only be within 3 to hit him with my 50 ASW strike, or ASM strike, I should say. Again, we have a electronic warfare aircraft. That could have gone further, but it doesn't need to. It still applies the same benefit to my attack. The only detriment is because I'm firing from 1 hex away, I actually don't lose any value because I've got the Sidorov sitting right next to his task group and they can coordinate. So anyway, we continue here. Okay, this strike flies 30 and I will roll for location. I roll a 4. That's the top of the stack. I will put 32 on the Schofield and 18 on Con 1. The dice are just real nice here. Schofield undamaged and Con 1 waiting to be killed. Okay, your area air is 4 now because 2 frigates remain. And the ships have a defense of 6 and 7 respectively. You have a -2 to your dice roll for your from my electronic warfare. Your roll. He rolls a 5, which is a 3 on his defense column. And again, that's a 6 and 7, which is essentially these 2 columns here. So 5 minus 2 is a 3. We go over and we see that a 6 gives him a -2 to my rolls no matter what ship I hit here. Okay, so -2 to my attack rolls. That is a -2 to both attacks. I'll roll for Schofield first on the 32 column, which is a 6. That is a 4 result. So we go 6 minus 2 is a 4 over to 32 is a 5 hit, and the Schofield disappears in just a mass of inbound ship killer missiles. Now 18 on Con 2, again -6 to the dice roll. That's an 8. God, these dice felt great this particular attack. 6 over to 18 is a 4, and again we see the Schofield with 2 and the Con 1 with 4. Both of them disappear in the night. That is a 6 die result for a 4 hit, and Con 1 is destroyed. So really great series of attacks there by my aircraft. Again, we're seeing his ships being pulled. The task group 1 counter is pulled off the map because there's no longer a task group there. Schofield and the Con 1 go to my kill pile, and the Halliburton now is all alone out here in the middle of the Northwest Pacific. She too is damaged too. My bombers and my EW aircraft return to base. All right. What you're seeing here is I'm looking at, as I'm moving, I'm looking for air bases. At this point in the time, I don't know if I had put this function into the game where I can turn on and off the counters, into the module, I should say. But anyway, I was moving to look for air bases because I start pulling aircraft out of locations, and you'll see here momentarily. Okay, that group flies aircraft fly to a new base. So when we look here, you're going to see here now that my Tupolev 26 backfire bombers, another EW and a B-12 Homer reconnaissance ASW aircraft, they fly to 2238. A reposition up here, this base right here in Korsakov. Behind this wall of Japanese power, these aircraft have to go all the way up and around the northern horn of Japan. The flight makes it impossible to get any range down further south into the Japanese zone. I guess I could have flown down around North Korea and the North Korean peninsula, but it's about 6 of one, half a dozen the other in time and range, and it would have, only my longest of ranged of aircraft, the backfire bombers, would have really had the opportunity to get anywhere. So I just decided I'd park them up here on the higher. I don't know if this is the Kuril Isle. Yeah, it's the Kuril Isles, and up here in Kamchatka and stuff. It's interesting because my other backfire bomber wing was right up here in Vasilevo. And in fact, I got a really nice squadron of aircraft there. Unfortunately, his between the first and second turns here, the two AM and PM turns there, they hold on a second, guys. I apologize. They hit the base with cruise missiles, and then also his San Juan here and the New York launched cruise missile attacks on Vasilevo. So the base is now at a damage 3. It's the night turn. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to survive through the night. If it could, I'd be able to do a repair to that base and reduce that damage from 3 to 2. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. All right, continuing on here. Now you see this T-95F launch. It's got a 5 ASW, and I fly it against this Chinese nuclear sub, and I attack the R-263 with 5 ASW. I roll a 0, nothing. It lands, and that's the end of this log file. So, boom, that was the log file we had. The next one it will continue the rest of the game turns, but it's action segments, I guess I should say, action segments 2 through 6. But we did it face to face, so there's no written word as to what we're doing here. So let's open up that map. Hold on a second here. All right, so we're back. Okay, so we continue here. Let's bring up the turn track and click. You'll see he launches his air too. And the first thing I think we're going to see is he starts. No, that's a next turn here. The B-52 launches again out of Guam. This is great. This is what we were just talking about. Flies Vasilevo. He's got a 90 bombing attack rate. I don't have any air defense left. He's already crushed that with cruise missiles. So his bomber, he rolls a 6. Now if we look at the CRT on a 6 with no defense on the 90 or better, that's an 8. That's actually 2 damage, I think, to an air base. He only needs 1. Yeah, let's see here if we bring this up. Base damage on 8 to 9 is 2 points of damage to a base, but bottom line, he didn't need it. It was already damage 3, so we're going to see as this B-52 returns to Guam, my aircraft disappear, and Vasilevo is now destroyed. That was a terrible hit. Well, it was a great hit for him, terrible for me. Come on. Sorry. As you can see, I just lost a regiment of backfire bombers. The reconnaissance, I hate losing because they had some good ASW value and they had good range. The other ASW I have, these B-12 homers, are weak in the range and weak in the ASW value. But anyway, the backfires were the key thing there that were the greatest loss. We continue. He's moving those to his kill pile. All right, he's checking ranges. You're going to see now as a bunch of his Orions fly, he gathers them to attack in tandem against these. My Sidorov here, he has 16 points of ASW. The Sidorov has a strength of 9. It's one thing good about the Soviet subs. They do have good defense values, although their ASW and speeds are pretty lame. But with a 9 defense value on 16, he needed a 5 to damage her. So 7, 8, or 9 would have damaged the sub. He rolled a 3. And so that flight of Orions did nothing. They returned to base. Now he's flying north with a squadron of F-16s with an attack wing of F-1s and a Phantom electronic warfare group here. The first thing they have to do is we have to do the air-to-air combat. All right, my cap here at this base is cap number 4. So you're going to see cap 4 is a flight of MiG-23s. Nothing great to speak of, right? The MiG-23s, 6 strength there. He's flying in with 12 for his F-16s and 1 and 1 for the F-1s, and even the electronic warfare add him a combat air power. So 14. I got 6 to 14, which is essentially 1 to 3 odds. So we get on the 1 to 3 odds column. You're going to see here that I could potentially return him to base. My little MiG-23s, if I roll better, but he's got electronic warfare, so that's going to be a -2 to my roll, because I'm the attacker. So I fall on this column. He falls on the right-hand side. It says here, those to the right apply to the defender. He's a defender. Combat air patrols are the aggressor, because obviously they're flying out to attack any inbound threats. All right, so we roll here. And actually, I think the 1 is what I rolled. So the 1 minus 2 is a 0, which is a 2R return, which means if we look, so I click there, cap 4 is gone. Cap 4 has been destroyed. The MiG-23s were shot down. Not just returned, but blown out of the sky by the F-16s. And then my air defense rolls, and this is where I guess the dice are failing me. On a 20 column, I roll a 0. So a 0 on 20. And that's actually a -2, because it would be a -2 on 20, because he has an electronic warfare still. On 20 gives him a -1 to his attack. And he rolls a 0. 0 minus 1. And he's bombing with 60 points. Is a 0 minus 1 is -1 at 60. And that's a 3. And that doesn't damage my airbase. So he goes home empty-handed on that attack. So that's good so far. He did kill some MiG-23s, but nothing else. All right. Again, Orions are flying and trying, and they are missing. Orion's attacking all around. Nothing. Although, wait a second. I think he hit the Kosemnikov. What's it called? No, it's right here. That's a Capitan. There was an aircraft. It's a Kudelkin. Oh, here it is, right here. Yeah, the Kosemnikov. Looks like he got a hit on her there. Still trying to kill her though, and it's not happening. So now he flies a flight into North Korea to attack, and he returns my aircraft. As you can see, I had used all my combat air patrols here. You'll see the pink all disappear, which means, well, we're not going to go through the rolls here, but his attack came in with F-15s, an F-4 flight of electronic warfare, and an F-4 bomber squadron. But because of the fact that he's got Cap 8 and Cap 10 and Cap 7 all here on the peninsula, they're all close enough that they too can combine their strength in this melee, aerial melee here. Needless to say, he blows my aircraft out of the sky. Well, did he? Let's see what he got here. No, didn't get any kills, but he returned them all. So however the dice fell, he returned my North Koreans, and the North Koreans are some MiG-19s, 21s. So we had a total of 5, 10, 19 points of air-to-air defense there. He sent them home, but he did not. I did not stop him. Wait a second. Yeah, he killed a MiG-21. He took that in that aerial battle there. Now he tries to bomb my base, and he fails. But again, took out a flight of aircraft. Now an S2 Viking off the Carl Vinson flies to try and kill, or at least hit the Mironenko. And she goes home with no luck there. All right, here's a fun attack here. We're going to see 2 flights of A6s, electronic warfare, a Prowler wing, and 2 flights of F-18s flying south. And he's going to be hitting task group 2, you watch. So he comes in here. Again, I've got Vietnamese, Cap 12 is Vietnamese MiGs. There are 2 of them for 10 points. And I roll a 0 on my attack there, as you can see. I'm not going to worry about what the dice added up, but the bottom line is my combat air patrol failed. He shot down one of my flights of MiGs. The other one has returned to base. And he then unleashes a maelstrom on Task Force 6. And Task Force 6 is obliterated. Let's go back a minute. Let me show you what Task Group 6 looked like. It was a smelly and the Subritsny. He launched an attack. The Task Group 6 markers pulled off the map. The smelly remains, and the Subritsny is destroyed. His aircraft returned to his carriers. Now here's something to bring up too real quick. I want to say he has his 2 aircraft carriers combined here, the Carl Vinson and the Midway. They were free setup for him, and he put them both down here in the South China, or the South China Sea, which was a boon for me because his aircraft carriers were so far out of play. Granted, they just beat up these Soviet forces in Vietnam, but these Soviet forces in Vietnam really don't have anything to project power-wise anyway. There's some MiGs and there's a few bombers down here, but I can't get inside his F-16s and his F-15 caps over here, so I can't even hit the Philippines. Can't even hit the carriers because they're so close together. The F-14 screen is impenetrable as far as what combat aircraft I have to go in with. So, but anyway, because they're so out of place, he's a long way from bringing them to any kind of resource there. All right, so we continue. And it is a new turn. Roll for initiative. I get the initiative. I activate subs. It's a new action segment, I should say. And we start seeing my subs moving here, taking attacks and failing. That sub right there moved to detect Task Force 8. I want Task Force 8, and I'll tell you why. Come on, everything is off the screen. Task Force 8. It's a bunch of convoy vessels. Boom, 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 boom. I want to kill those things. So I want that sub to find Task Force 8 and put a local detection marker on it. The sad thing is, well, as long as I can stay in proximity of the ship, I can get that local detection marker with the onset of the new day. The Sura's moving about there. The Kudelkin and the Jupiter and then the Capitant, I don't know what to do with it, so I back it away and then I change direction. The Yuzhny heads a little south there. Okay, now my subs start to zoom in to kill the remainder of these frigates and hopefully find his nuke boats. And the Sidorov moves and fires on Halliburton and misses. I missed. Kind of sad with the 22 ASW value. Of course, he's got torpedo decoys, so that could have been why. And anyway, I'll go back. So he activates subs in action segment 4. Bring that off the screen. And his subs, his New York sails to attack the Sidorov. He rolls a 1 and misses. Halliburton's moving. I don't know why. The San Juan moved. I think I forgot to move my his barbel moves here. Let's see. Moves there, and then I think I forgot to move my North Korean boats. That's why they moved, and he gave me that essentially a redo. Task Force 6 is moving during his sub move. I don't know what Task Force 20 is pivoting around. He moved Task Force 6 back. Springfield moves north and attacks the Kasimbakov right here. He rolls a 4. I rolled a detect and I find the Springfield. That's cool. His Han 303 comes up here to attack the Mironenko. And he rolls a 9. That's a hit on the Mironenko. Then the Dace comes west. He rolls a 3 and that misses. I roll a 1 and I find the Dace. Still, the Mironenko is damaged pretty bad. Bremerton heads north, and now some Chinese subs start heading, surging off the coast there. He brings over this R-267 diesel boat to attack the Smelly, and he kills it with the torpedo attack, sinks the Smelly. I'm telling you, those destroyers were so far out of range for any support. No air cover, Vietnamese MiGs, what is that going to do? The MiG-23s that I had here, I kept them on the ground so as to use them for hopefully an attack onto his Philippine area or even into the carriers, but that never came about. So, all right. Now we're seeing my task forces move. We see again with the last action segments 5 and 6. I got the initiative here, so I only have a few task forces. Again, objectives are kill his tankers, slow, fast convoys, kill his amphibs. That's my goals. But my other goal was to get my slow convoy ships to the Kamchatka Peninsula. I got to get it up here. These objective markers, I created these for our module that players can place them. It's the objective locations for whatever objective might be. They don't have any other purpose other than to mark the map, but I guess I could add a text thing for what needs to get there. Maybe I'll do that in a future update here. Anyway, you're going to see my task forces moving, oscillating back and forth, trying to figure that. Task Group 2 was just a couple of North Korean patrol craft. Okay, and we come to the final action segment. That was it. That was the vaunted Soviet fleet there. I only have 4 task forces. Not terribly weak, but that's it. One of them is just a task group with a couple patrol craft. All right, so last action segment for him is his surface vessels, and we see him move Task Force 18 into position to try and find Task Group 2. Task Force 20 moves, Task Force 8 moves, and now that was it. Because now we're placing local detection markers in preparation for the next turn. Well, no, we took them off. Don't know what's going on. Maybe hitting wrong keystrokes. Now we're removing. Oh, Task Force 8 just attacked the. Let me go back here against the Kasabakov and Task Force 8. His Task Force 8 is nothing to scoff at, even though it's got a bunch of convoys. Look at this, 8, 16, 21 ASW. That's a really strong ASW fleet there. So that was a good attack. Attacks a Kasimbakov, rolls a 6, kills it. Then his task force moves on. That was unfortunate for me. Again, Chinese are surging off the coast, combining task groups, whatever they are. A lot of it is patrol craft. His carriers continue their north trek. Task Force 2. This is another task force I really want, because Task Force 2 is filled with these maritime pre-positioning ships. Those are a definite target. I want those, and then of course I want these amphibs that are part of the amphib. But this is under the Carl Vincent's protection. The Midway is right next to it. There's no way I'm getting those amphibious assault ships, not with an airstrike or anything. So, anyway, that is the rest of that turn, and I think what we're going to see, yes, we start prepping for game turn 4. So I'm just going to kind of click through this stuff because it doesn't have any kind of, wait a second, yeah, caps are returning to flight, all the things that were turned off are continuing. I'll move this off the map a minute. I'm going to minimize and then maximize because it got funky there. Yeah, I'm just redoing caps. Putting aircraft. Now we're moving aircraft that moved to new bases. Predominantly, all the Chinese aircraft moved to new bases. He's placing. They've been on the turn track, waiting for them to become available. He's putting all these aircraft into place. He's got a lot going on there. Mine also placed. That's what you saw my counters moving for. Bombers galore in Danong here, and the Dandong is to the north. Anyway, he's poised all these bombers to start attacking North Korea, which you'll see in later segments of this battle. Okay, and the game turn track now moves to game turn 4. So that'll be in the next video, though. I'm going to continue here as we clear the squalls. We've got some new weather situations, and that's the end of the log file. The only thing else I want to point out before we move on, because this is critical to the game here for the Soviets, and that is with our setup for game turn 4. I'll bring up my spreadsheet here. Game turn 4 starts game day 2, right? Well, we rolled for our weather. We rolled for satellites. Soviets got one. The U.S. did not. But here's a key thing. The armistice marker moved forward, and victory points are awarded. Each time the armistice marker moves, victory points are awarded. And that is big time for the Soviets. You will see on my scores here, sea denial. It says victory points at negotiation begins. So the armistice marker moves for every sub or task force that I have in the Sea of, not the Sea of Japan, but the Japan zone. Maybe it is the Sea of Japan. Hold on, let's see here. Is there a Japan zone? Yeah, there's a Japan zone. Japan. This zone right here that I'm kind of shifting up and down. For every one that I had in there, when the armistice marker moves, I get 4 points for each. So 6 total subs or task forces were in that zone, so I scored 24 points. For every of these sea zones, Hokkaido, West Pacific, and so forth, all these sea zones, I had 13 subs or task forces, and there were 2 each, which gave me 26 points. Also, I had 1 sub in the Tsushima Strait That's big, big time. So that was worth 8 points. So just from the armistice moving, I got 58 points in our score here, plus all my kills. Now this 318 score here is is all the way through our current game point here. So at the time, I didn't have 318 when this turn ended. But the point is, this was very beneficial for me. The U.S. also gets some benefit from the armistice marker moving, and that was basically here. He got 15 points, so not much to speak of. The cool thing is, you look right now and kind of speculate, the Soviets have 318 points to his 161. That's what we're looking at right now. A substantive victory for the Soviets, as long as I can hold it. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed it and you like what you see with each of my videos here about our fleet battle games, hopefully they're instructional for you if you are learning the game, and hopefully they're enjoyable if you just want to sit back and watch what's going on. I try to keep them short, and we're at 46 minutes, which is a little more than I like to do, but still, I thank you for watching, and I'll be back with another video here soon. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.